Today's video is all about beetroot. To show you how to get the best out of this vegetable, I've got 4 delicious recipes. From a vibrant beetroot hummus to a fresh slaw, or how about this beetroot ragu? Let's get started with the simplest recipe of the 4 and let me know any beetroot recipes that you know of in the comments section. And by the way, if I look like I haven't slept or shaven in the last 2 weeks, then that is very much true as we're looking after a very cute little munchkin called Poppy. We'll just start by trimming off the 2 ends of the beetroot. And when making slaw, I tend to peel the beetroot just because it makes it quite difficult to grate if you leave it on. And as this video goes on, you'll probably notice that my hands slowly get more and more red and look like I've murdered someone. But if you want to avoid that, then just wear some gloves. And then we'll just grate this on the coarse setting on your grater. You could also use a food processor if you wanted to. Hopefully you don't have a white kitchen, in which case these recipes may not be for you. And then instead of risking grating your fingers on the last little thin bit, I'd recommend just eating it. So earthy, really lovely. It's amazing how much volume you'll get from just 1 beetroot. Next we'll just grate 1 carrot. Carrot is also earthy and sweet, so it's going to go nicely with the beetroot. Then I've got some fresh herbs, I've got some parsley, and I've also got some mint, which I'm just going to quickly pick off its stem. You can go pretty wild with the flavors when doing a beetroot slaw because it does have a really bold flavor, so it can stand up to anything that you throw at it really. You could do a coconut, coriander, and mustard seed salad, or you could make a nice tahini dressing or a yogurt-based dressing. It's also great with fruit like apple and pear, that's really nice. Grapes even could work well. And we'll just finely chop these herbs. Best way to do that is just bunch them up into a really tight little bundle, almost like a cigar, and then just run your knife through it. And that's gonna make it really nice and fine. I want this slaw to be really nice and vibrant, so I'm adding a good handful of fresh herbs. Also going to add some chopped nuts. I'm going to add some pecans, but you could do walnuts or hazelnuts. They would both be really good. You could also do some toasted seeds, some like pumpkin or sunflower seeds would be nice. Also a pomegranate in a slaw like this, so that's really nice. Beetroot can have quite a strong earthy flavor that can put people off, but it also has a lovely sweetness that you just have to bring out through cooking or using other ingredients. In this case, we'll use some classic French flavors like Dijon mustard and lemon to really bring out the sweetness of the beetroot. Before we make a very simple lemon Dijon dressing, I'm just going to add the lemon zest first. When you're using a zester, instead of sort of moving the lemon back and forward over the zester, which generally leads to you getting too much pith from the lemon, I'd recommend you sort of move the zester around the lemon, meaning you only go over one spot once and you don't get down to the white pith, which you really don't want. And then for the super simple dressing, we're just going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. We'll then go in with our lemon juice and a little pinch of salt and pepper. And then lastly, some olive oil. You could definitely do this without the olive oil and just have a really nice, fresh, zesty dressing. Quick shake, and that is ready to go. Get that dressing over the salad. I'm gonna go in with all of it, and then just mix that through. The beetroot and the carrot is just gonna absorb that lovely, citrusy, slightly spicy mustard dressing. It's gonna be really delicious. And there you go, you've got a lovely, vibrant, zesty beetroot and carrot slaw. Enjoy. This slaw has an almost fruity note to it, and then you get hit by the fresh herbs, the earthy sweetness of the beetroot and the carrot. Really delicious. It'd be great in a kebab with some like hummus and some smoky tofu, or just on the side of any meal, a really nice side dish. Enjoy. 3 is very much the limit, so don't throw me any more. If you love hummus, then you're probably also getting a little bit bored of having just plain hummus, so give this vibrant, sweet beetroot hummus a go. We pair the bold beetroot with zesty flavors like lemon and ground coriander to create a dip like no other. Just make sure not to make it while wearing a white t-shirt. The first stage of this hummus is to actually cook the chickpeas. Now this is optional, but I would highly recommend it for 2 situations. First situation is if you've bought some canned chickpeas and they're maybe not the best quality, they're a little bit hard, then cooking them is going to make a lot of difference to your hummus in getting it nice and creamy. And then also if you don't have a very good food processor, maybe it's a bit old, not very powerful, then I would also recommend cooking your chickpeas. I'm also going to add a pinch of bicarbonate of soda, which is going to help break down the chickpeas and get them really nice and soft. So we'll just let them simmer for about 10 minutes, that's all they need. While the chickpeas cook, we're going to add our minced garlic to a food processor. Also going to add the lemon zest. We'll also add the lemon juice and a small pinch of salt. I like to do this first and then just let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, and that's going to mellow out the sort of pungent, strong, garlicky flavor. If you really like the strong, garlicky flavor, then feel free to skip this step. So to the food processor, I've added the hot chickpeas. We're now going to add in the beetroot as well. Must have rolled somewhere. I find blending this when the chickpeas are hot just results in a much creamier hummus. We're then going to add in some ground cumin for that lovely earthy, sweet aroma, and some ground coriander for the lovely lemony floral note. That's going to work with the lemon to make this really vibrant and delicious. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, but that's completely optional. And then we'll just blend this until smooth. So that's nice and smooth. We're now going to add in our tahini. Just make sure to give it a good stir so it is well combined and you're not just adding oil. And then adding 3 ice cubes, and we'll give that another blend. The ice is going to cool the oil and the tahini, making it stiff, which then, when it gets whipped by the blades, is going to get almost frothy and create a luxuriously creamy hummus. Final step is to give it a season. I'm going to add a good grating of black pepper. Black pepper goes really well with the earthy and sweet tones of the beetroot. And I did just give it a taste, and I think it needs just a small pinch of salt. Once again, the beetroot being quite earthy, it can take a decent amount of seasoning. That is lovely. The beetroot just adds a really nice depth of flavor to this hummus, and it pairs perfectly with the citrus notes from the lemon and the ground coriander. Really delicious, and you can't go wrong with something that's this color. Another flavor profile that works really well with beetroot is tang, and we're going to be using balsamic vinegar, which is amazingly tangy. It's sharp, it's got a complex flavor, and it works really well with the sort of strong-bodied beetroot that we're going to be roasting. For the balsamic roast beetroot, we're going to keep the skin on, but we're just going to remove the top and bottom little dry bit. And then we'll just cut the beetroot into equal size sort of wedges. Make sure the pieces are roughly the same size so that they cook at the same rate. Don't worry if they're slightly different, just as long as they're roughly the same. You'll just end up with some slightly different textures. Some will be more caramelized and some will have more of a bite to them, which to be fair is absolutely fine. So get your beetroot in a bowl, and we're going to add a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, and then adding in some finely chopped rosemary, and we'll just season with salt and pepper. The earthy, piney and fragrant rosemary goes really well with the beetroot. Give that a quick mix up so it's all nice and coated. And then I'm going to cook these in the air fryer with the crisper basket removed, and just make sure you get all that oil and rosemary out of the bowl. And I'm going to air fry them at about 180 degrees Celsius. And while they cook, we can make the glaze, starting with balsamic vinegar, maple syrup, that's gonna make them lovely and sticky and caramelized, some orange zest, about 1/3 of an orange I'm gonna go for, and some of the juice as well, 3 tablespoons, that should be good. Give that a little mix, and then we'll pour it over the beetroots towards the end of the cooking process. Chef's treat. Delicious. Okay, so our beetroot looks like this. It's got a nice bit of caramelization. It's starting to get tender, so we're going to add on our glaze. And then that's going to go straight back into the air fryer. And then after another 5 to 8 minutes, you'll have these beautifully glazed, fragrant beetroot wedges. You want to cook it until most of the glaze is gone, maybe just a little drizzle left for the end. Wow, they are really lovely. Beautifully caramelized on the outside. They've almost gone like chewy, and you get a nice hit of zesty orange, a back note of rosemary. Really delicious. To elevate a simple lentil ragu, you must try adding in some beetroot, which has incredible depth of flavor and sweetness. Grated and cooked gently, it almost disappears into this ragu, and the sort of earthy flavor completely disappears, and you're just left with a lovely bit of sweetness. We're going to start this beetroot and mushroom ragu as many recipes start, and that is by sauteing some diced onion. And we'll just fry this onion until it's going nice and translucent. We're not going to caramelize it too much, as we're going to be adding mushrooms and beetroot, which all need cooking down. We're then going to add in our grated beetroot. This is raw grated beetroot. You could use already cooked back-packed beetroot, and it would just cook a bit quicker. It would sort of melt down more easily. Also going to add in some diced mushroom, which is going to add a lovely sort of chewy, juicy texture to this ragu and umami flavor. You can ramp up the heat now as there's a lot of moisture in both the beetroot and the mushrooms, which we want to cook out. This is just to concentrate the flavor and get some nice caramelization going on. I'm also going to add a bay leaf just to cook down with the mushroom and beetroot. And we'll let that cook down for around 8 to 10 minutes until most of the moisture has been evaporated and we've got a bit of caramelization going on both the mushroom and the beetroot. So the mushrooms and the beetroot have cooked down really nicely now. This is an important step because you want the beetroot to be sort of, melting in your mouth by the time this is done. Next to go in, I've got some dried oregano and some dried thyme. You can use other dried herbs if you want, or you could use fresh. Then I've got one fairly chunky clove of garlic, just gonna zest it in. You could also finely chop it if you wanted. Stir those through and we'll just let them cook for 30, 60 seconds. When you zest the garlic, it has such a lovely punchy flavor. It smells incredible. Next up, we're going to add a good amount of tomato puree. This is going to give the ragu a really lovely, deep, rich tomatoey flavor. Whenever I use tomato puree, I like to cook it out for at least 60 seconds. But honestly more towards 2 minutes, I'd say. This is just really important for turning it from sort of acidic and bitter into lovely and sweet and caramelized. I also find when it comes out of these tubes, it has a sort of metallic flavor, and I find cooking it down really well just gets rid of it completely. For an additional layer of texture, I'm going to add some chopped nuts. I'd say the best variety of nuts to use are walnuts and cashews. They really sort of soften up nicely, whereas sort of pecans, almonds, these sort of nuts, they stay a bit too hard for my liking. The tomato puree has been cooked down, and we're going to deglaze the pan with red wine. It's going to add a lovely fruity, rich depth of flavor to this ragu. If you don't want to use red wine, then no problem at all. You could use some grape juice, some cranberry juice works quite well, or you could just use a splash of red wine vinegar. Just don't use quite as much as it is quite acidic. So just cook that red wine down until it's really lovely and jammy and just completely evaporated. And then we're going to add in 1 can of chopped tomatoes. And then I've just got some veggie stock here and I'm going to use it to wash out the can. Make sure you get all that tomato out, don't want to waste any. The color of this is already just incredible and we haven't even properly simmered it down yet. Next to go in, I've just got some cooked green lentils. I prefer to use pre-cooked lentils in this dish as the tomatoes, the wine, the tomato puree, it's all very acidic and that can make cooking lentils quite difficult. If you do want to cook the lentils from raw, whether that's red or green lentils, brown lentils, I'd suggest soaking them for at least a couple of hours just to help soften them up. And I'd also add just a little pinch of bicarbonate of soda. Bicarbonate of soda is very alkaline and it's going to neutralize the acid from the chopped tomatoes and the tomato puree and just help cook those lentils. But personally, I think just adding some pre-cooked lentils is the best way to go. And just before we leave this to simmer, I'm going to add a good grating of black pepper. Got that on the lowest heat. I'm going to pop a lid on and let it simmer and blip away for 15 minutes. And then we'll take the lid off and cook it for a further 5 minutes. I don't think you're going to like beetroot ragu, Poppy. Okay, that is looking good. It is reduced down. It's beautifully rich and thick. And it's got an amazing sort of reddy purple color. Add in your pasta of choice. The ragu is going to turn the pasta just the most amazing color. The color of this is just incredible. I don't know how many times I've said earthy and sweet in this video, but it's quite a few, and that is exactly what it adds to this dish. Plus a really lovely depth of flavor. I reckon this would be a great recipe for the kids as well, as it turns the spaghetti a lovely reddy pink color and is quite good fun. It also turns your lips and tongue red. So yeah, give this recipe a go and I hope you really enjoy it. You also get the health benefits from the beetroot, which is always a good one. Thank you for watching. For some more cooking inspiration, check out this video.